All right. Thank you all again for joining. I will now present about the first Elgin geotextile sand filter system to have been installed in the state of Hawaii. And you can see on the left a photo and the logos of the three organizations that were involved: WAI, Elgin, and ACSI. And first, I want to talk about, oops. Well, there you go. First, I want to introduce you all to Elgin Corporation. Elgin was established in 1970, so over 50 years ago, by a World War II veteran, and has kept up with the tradition of hiring vets, and therefore has received the Hire Vets Award in 2019, 2020, and 2021. All their products are being made in Windsor, Connecticut, and one of their most successful is the geotextile sand filter, which was introduced in the mid-1980s. There are now over 100,000 installations of the geotextile sand filter system worldwide, and that makes them a global leader in passive wastewater treatment. Passive meaning no use of electricity. A little bit about how the system works. You can see a picture on the right. The water from the septic tank goes into a perforated pipe. From there, trickles down into the module, so it's called, which is a way of maximizing surface area while providing for some wastewater retention so that the primary treatment can occur. And then it goes into the system sand. The system sand is part of the treatment system because it allows aerobic bacteria to provide secondary treatment, which means that the combination of a septic tank plus this Elgin system can be an alternative to an aerobic treatment unit and a chambered leach field. No electricity, like I said, is required for gravity-fed systems like the one we installed. And this system allows for treatment and disposal in the same footprint. And like I said, this system sand is a certain type of sand. It's bound by ASTM spec C33, which is a type of concrete sand, and it is part of the system itself. You cannot leave it out. The lucky veteran Jarvis received this system for free, paid for in full by Elgin with a donation of engineering service by Dennis Poma at ACSI. And this is a part of the flyer that we sent out over a year ago announcing that this giveaway was going to happen. The Veterans for a WAI giveaway. Like I said, the winner was Jarvis, and Jarvis lives with his family in Ke'au on the Big Island. You can see on the right a map that his cesspool, unfortunately, is not the only one in his area. It's actually one of almost 10,000 cesspools in the priority area of Ke'au as defined by the Department of Health. The good part about that means there are a lot of cesspools still to be converted, which can then be assigned an awesome innovative technology, such as Elgin. And a little bit more about Jarvis. He's been with the Hawaii Army National Guard for 26 years, and he currently works as an operations sergeant in Kalailoa. When we first visited his site, these were the existing conditions. He had an existing cesspool. He has a 3-bedroom house, and he plans to build a 2-bedroom Ohana unit in the back of his property for his in-laws to live in. He didn't have the funds to upgrade his cesspool and build that Ohana unit, so we were able to help him make that dream a reality and be able to take care of his family better. And luckily, he has plenty of space available in his backyard for this system. Here's the design that our partner and friend Dennis at ACSI came up with. And again, he donated his engineering and permitting services to this project. You can see on the left here, the existing 3-bedroom dwelling. We just looked at it from the side where the cesspool is. That's the circle here. And the design was to, or is, and has been executed to be a septic tank here and the Elgin leach field in the center. And then in the back of the property is where the new 2-bedroom ADU is going to be placed once that's constructed. There are certain challenges that had to be overcome in order to make this project a reality. First challenge is that there's no native soil in that part of the Big Island. It's too young for native soil to have been naturally occurring. And so there's only basalt rock there, which means the percolation rate is super, super fast, as you learned earlier in our interactive portion. ASTM C33 sand is unfortunately not available on Big Island. That meant that we had to ship it in. And at least at this time, it has to be shipped in until we can find a local source. And the last challenge was that we wanted to coordinate the installation of the system with a visit of Scott, who's also on this call from the mainland, to make sure that the system is installed properly and he can give pointers because it's the first one in Hawaii. So here's how it went. The very first thing that happened was that the 42 GSF, geotextile sand filter modules, were shipped to Jarvis's house by Elgin. Also included were filter fabric and hoops to keep the system in place. And you can see here on the left what those shipments look like. Each module, by the way, the reason it's called A42 module is that it's 4 feet by 2 feet. The contractor that was selected was Calvin Azevedo of Azevedo Contracting, local contractor who also did the neighbor system. So we knew that he was reliable and we loved working with him. He had several days of work with heavy equipment to excavate. You can see on the right what the excavation looked like. It's all rock. There was no soil whatsoever. And that meant that we had to get the big equipment down, but Calvin did, and it worked out well. And the excavated rock was actually not taken to a landfill, but it was taken to local residents who will use them on other projects. And you can see more later how recycling minded this project is and was. The next step was to install a suitable soil replacement, because as you may have guessed, basalt rock is not suitable for leach fields. It's too fast. The bacteria does not have any time to do its magic if the water just rushes right through. And so the Department of Health says there has to be at least 3 feet of suitable soil beneath any type of leach field. And so we were able to find that local quarries sell a product called cinder soil, which is a mixture of local cinder and soil from a different part of the Big Island. And that has a perfect percolation rate for leach fields where it's not too fast and not too slow. This is what the system sand looked like while it was being shipped over. It was shipped over from Oahu. There's a company called Pine Ridge Farms on Oahu, and they make a product called concrete washed sand C33. And it's actually made locally from recycled concrete. So it's not excavated anywhere. It is actually recycled product. Another point for the recycling board for this project. And you can see here, each of these sacks contains about 1.7 tons of this material. It was shipped in containers from Oahu to Hilo and then trucked over, and the companies involved are West Oahu Aggregate, Young Brothers, and Kona Trans. A septic system, even an enhanced septic system, wouldn't be a septic system without a septic tank. So here you can see on the right a photo of the septic tank that was installed. It was a 1,500 gallon infiltrator plastic septic tank. On the left, a schematic of how septic tanks work. The minimum rule for the Department of Health is 1,250 gallons, but we like to round up to 1,500. Septic tanks must be pumped approximately 3 to 5 years. It highly depends on the use, but 3 to 5 years is kind of a good rule of thumb. And many homeowners don't know this, but they can actually measure sludge depth, which is an indicator of if it needs to be pumped themselves using a stick. And every individual wastewater system has to provide a manual that tells homeowners how they can service it or rudimentarily service it or test it themselves. So we like to let homeowners know that they actually can do that themselves if they want to, and be careful about it. Next step was to install the A42 modules. You can see here on the left, on that third row where it's not covered by the fabric yet, what these modules look like. Each module is rectangular 4 by 2 feet. You can see the perforated pipe on top. And then after it's covered with the fabric, it looks like the middle and the first rung, and you have also the hoops to make sure that the fabric stays in place. And on the right, you can see what the system looks like after the system sand is fully installed. So it's beneath the modules and also on the side of the modules. Then we were lucky to be able to have a media day where we invited local stakeholders to show off the system, and Scott was there too. In the back, you can see Calvin, the contractor, and we had local senator, a local council member, and really good questions, really good exchange of ideas and information happened there. And we were proud to show the system that was almost fully installed at that point. Here you can see the cesspool in the process of being backfilled from left to right, excavation, fully emptying it out. It turned out did not need to be pumped. It was fully empty. And then on the right, backfilled with material that was excavated elsewhere. And so that means one cesspool less, 87,999 to go. System complete looks like this. It was backfilled with a relatively affordable type of cinder. The installation from start to finish took less than a month. And the contractor, Calvin, said, even though this was the first one, the system was easy to install and he liked working with it. The complete cost of the installation and materials, including materials, was about $45,000. And what we want to mention is that the first system of its kind is always going to be more expensive and difficult as the second and the third, and fourth and fifth. So this number is not what we're expecting the next systems to get to, but we wanted to honestly tell you what it was for the first system, and also thank Elgin for covering that cost. We are working with Elgin to cut costs for future installations, really make sure that every possible way of saving money for the homeowners in a responsible way will be taken. And one of those options is that ideally we want to find sources of this system sand, the C33 sand, on each island so that it doesn't have to be shipped in. Thank you all so much. I'm excited to hear questions. And yeah, here's also my email address if you have any questions over email. Thank you all.